Hi, everyone. My name is Owen, and I'm very excited to talk with you today. We are looking forward to sharing with you a lot of different key pieces about how to grow in e-commerce and how to drive down operational cost. And we've been focusing particularly on the tools and home improvement space to drive value for you, as we know that this space in general has had a lower e-commerce participation rate than a lot of other areas. And so really excited about the content, excited about the teams, and we're going to go ahead and jump right in. So first of all, I'll share a few things around this space, and then I'll hand it over to Lance Carell, who's our Director of Listing Operations, to talk about how to really build out your listings to the next level. I'll then hand it to Keely, who's sitting with me here. Hello. Who leads our channels team and works across many of our great channels to build promotions. Nelson will then take us into brand control. Tina will lead us through Home Depot and Lowe's, as she's been working with those channels for a long time. And then finally, we'll close out with some trajectory and overall closing thoughts. We do look forward to your questions. You can go ahead and post those into the chat. We'll be answering those as we go. And we're excited to dive in. So yeah, reminder, please use your chat to ask questions. We'll be answering those as we go. We'll try to let our presenters get through, but we'll make sure we ask those, and I'll help MC us a bit as we go through. All right, now finally, if you do participate, this is my favorite part about our approach here and is that we can make prizes available for you. So this first prize, we'll get a clam quick set escape. All you need to do is participate, and then we'll randomly select a winner, and we'll be sharing those out so you know who's winning. This is a great product, a great one, especially in the summer when you're getting ready to go outside, go camping, etc. All right, a little bit about Spreetail. Many of you know us, but we've been around quite a while, established in 2006. We have over 1,000 team members. We've shipped over 100 million orders, and we have 9 fulfillment centers throughout the U.S., also in the U.K. and Germany and abroad. We spend tremendously in advertising, which is a huge area that's growing tremendously on Walmart, Amazon, Target, and others. We're the largest seller fulfilled prime seller. That's SFP on Amazon. And then we're also one of the largest sellers across Lowe's, Home Depot as well. And so we drive a lot of volume, and excited to share some of the insights that we've developed over the years with you. We've had the privilege to work with a lot of great brands in the tools and home improvement space. Here's a few of them that we worked for and with during the years. And then I myself have been in the space quite a bit, been to see many factories and production abroad and in the US. And so excited to jump in and hopefully provide some relevant value to you today. So a couple of things about home improvement and online is that we've been lagging as a category in terms of our online penetration. And so if you look really in 2019, we had about 24% of our performance was online. And then really in 2023, we've already picked up and grown up to 37%. And there does vary a little bit category to category. Obviously, if you get into more of the big and bulky supplies, it tends to be less, especially things like lumber, of course, we can all imagine. But it's continuing to move online. And this is something that I want to talk to you about specifically, because I think a lot of us don't always think about what this means for our business. As this is happening, we know it's happening. It's been happening for decades, but we don't really think about what this means for us. So I want to talk specifically about that. So overall, in general, we try to focus on how we can expand our market share online. And I would say that the generalist channels that are not specific to home improvement area, so think about Amazon or think about a general merchandiser like Walmart, have been very successful in growing share and growing online. And so I think a lot of us as brands, we might think about the legacy ways we've gone to sell our product, and maybe we're in a targeted space. Maybe that's with a certain set of retailers that focus only in our space. But you got to remember that brands and customers are representing and going to Amazon, going to Walmart and other channels. And so you need to control and manage your brand on those channels to make sure that the customer has a really good seamless experience across e-commerce. And that's what we want to talk to you about here as we dive in. Here is some data to project over the next 10 years. So I just highlighted that we're now sitting at about 37% of sales that are online, if you look at the pie chart on the left. If you go to the pie chart on the right, that's 10 years from now, and that's at an estimated CAGR growth percentage online. So we're increasing to almost 50%. And so if you step back from that and say, okay, wait a second, we're increasing e-commerce to about 0.5%, but I know that, for instance, my offline market share is maybe really strong. Maybe it's 60, 70%. I'm really dominating my category. But my online market share is less. Maybe it's only 10, 20%. That means that every time a customer goes online, I'm losing a customer, right? Because I'm going from a high control area to a low control area. And so this bar chart shows this. This may not be you, but in our experience, many players in the home improvement space experience this. They have a strong offline control of their market, but when they go online, there's a bunch of new entrants, a bunch of other players, a bunch of people that have stolen into their category, and they're losing share. So if you have 75% share offline and 25% off online, then every 100 customers that go online, you will lose 42 of those. And that means every day you're losing more customers, and that's why your online market share needs to be as strong as your offline. And here's what that looks like in a chart. So if you imagine a category, this is a fictitious category, growing over the next 10 years, up to well over 100 million of sales online. And then again, if you're in this situation, your percentage of share is losing. And every year that's growing, you're losing share, and you're becoming more irrelevant over time to your customers as they go to shop online. And that's what we want to stop. That's where we want to share today on things you can do to stop that. So with that, I'd invite everyone to go ahead and write in the chat there, share with us, how would you rate your offline online distribution? 1 is low confidence, 5 is solid. Now remember, every engagement you have, every question enables you to be entered for a chance to win that clam item. So we love engagement, and we'll go ahead and let you do that. And I think we'll keep rolling. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the chat and see what questions we have, but otherwise we'll hand it over to Lance.
Hey everyone, my name is Lance Crow. I'm the Director of Listing Operations here at Spreetail. So we are going to dive into how to, no pun intended, nail your listings. So here is prize number 2, cross net, 4-square volleyball net and game set. So some great outdoor activities as the weather warms up here with friends and family. So we're going to dive into content and why it matters. So content optimization, why does it matter? Traffic conversion, 2 big, huge things on Amazon. So we know that there are hundreds of thousands, millions of listings out there, maybe even thousands just on a very similar product type that you're selling. So how do you drive the traffic to your listing? How do you convert when it gets there? And then once you've converted, how do you build trust with your customers so they come back? And you have increased sales and brand loyalty based off of that. So something that we've seen, just some basic results on content optimizations, you can drive sales lift by up to 15%, traffic by 8 to 10%, and your bestseller rank decreasing by 16%, all just by doing some simple content optimizations. And when I say simple, that's probably a little bit of a pun intended there, but all by just optimizing your content and making sure that you are optimized on your listings across your entire brand. So we can move forward here and dive into the different areas. So the first area, copy. So why does copy matter? So when we talk about copy, we talk about written content. Well, the biggest thing here, driving traffic to your listings. So when a customer searches on any platform, especially Amazon, we want to make sure that when they type in cordless drill, that this listing is a listing that pops up and one that isn't on page 75, but one that's on page 1 or 2. So one of the ways we can do that is ensure that our copy, so our written content, has our keywords and our titles, bullets, search terms, all inside of that. Now, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with Amazon's algorithms and channels algorithms, but really a lot of this comes down to as well, how do we describe our items? And here's a great example. So this DeWalt drill, you can see this copy on this DeWalt drill. So this is bullet point number 1 that we're zoomed in on. So if I'm shopping for a DeWalt cordless drill, I zoom in on this first bullet and notice that it's talking about heating efficiency and a propane heater. Right away, the first thing I do, if we reference back to slide 1 with customer trust, I'm saying, I don't really trust who's selling this product because this doesn't look like a propane heater to me. So the traffic got drove into this page, but then the conversion just didn't happen because of the customer trust. So a huge key to converting and driving traffic to listing is having content that reads well, that includes the best keywords possible, and that just ensures to the customer that they're buying a product that they can actually trust. So this would be a bad example. And now we'll move forward on some positive examples and images. So images and A+ content, why do they matter? First of all, I know a lot of home improvement items, usually we're not talking about something that costs $1. Usually we're talking about high price point items that a customer is investing a significant amount of money in. So when they buy their new tool, or they're going to renovate their home, and they're buying something for that, they want to know that it's a great product. Well, the first way you can do that is differentiate your product through images. High quality images and a high quality image carousel shows that your product is a premium product and different than other brands. The other piece to this then obviously is it's going to boost your conversion. So the customer is going to say, I trust that this listing is a premium product based on the content here, based on what I can see from the images, and I want to actually buy this product because I see myself using it. A lot of people don't talk about increasing traffic to your listings using images and A+ content, but it's actually something that can be done as well in the background. So that's something that we ensure using right algorithms. You can drive traffic to your listings based on what you're using for some of your content that goes alongside your images and A+ content. Lastly, and most importantly, mobile content. So over 50% of our traffic here at Spreetail is driven through the mobile customer. If you've ever looked at A+ content or images on a phone, it makes a huge difference when they're high quality. You want to ensure that your premium A+ content is accessible and that the mobile customer can easily see the call outs of your product. You don't want a customer to have to zoom in, find things using a zoom feature, because quite frankly, we know they'll just back out of the detail page. So you want mobile traffic to be traffic that your images and A+ content are optimized for. So we'll move forward on the next slide here. Product variation. So another huge piece of content. You want to make sure the best SKUs that are the same colors, same size, different sizes, etc. of a SKU are all on the same detail page. What this does for your product, we see an example here. We have a dark gray and a brown version of the same deck box. Well, now we're driving double the traffic. So if a customer searches for dark gray deck box, they're also going to have the option here of the brown deck box. Now, why is this so important? Well, a customer may have in mind a certain color, but when they get to their page, they may realize they need 2 colors of that, or they just may realize that they wanted a different color that may be at a certain price point that's different. Why this is so huge as well is new SKU launches. So we see this all the time where we have a product line where a SKU exists in a certain size or color, but a brand is bringing on a brand new size, brand new color. That SKU being brand new to the marketplace is not going to drive great traffic or conversion to its listing based on just not having a lot of reviews, not having a lot of rankings, not having done a lot of sales history. Well, the way that you can drive traffic to a listing is variate it to a similar product. So some data that we've seen from this, we've seen a 15% sales increase lift when we're able to put together product variations. Lowe's will even boast a 20% when you're able to get those 2 products or multiple products together on the same variation. So extremely important to keep listings grouped as great as possible. So I do see one question here real fast that I might take a chance to answer real quick. Groupings as large as possible. I think that's depending on the product. So as long as it doesn't create customer confusion. So great question, and I'll follow up with more in the chat on that. But content, really finishing up here, why it matters. Well, here's an example. We have a trimmer. So Milwaukee Stream Trimmer, great brand. My father-in-law owns some of these tools and really loves them. But there's one image here. So I'm a customer, one bullet. I'm probably thinking, am I actually going to get the Milwaukee trimmer that I order here? I don't really trust this listing based off of just a quick glance. Because it doesn't look like anybody's putting any time into this. And so I'm worried that this may be someone selling this out of their garage, and I may end up with a used product. I may end up with a product that isn't exactly what I wanted. So I might back out of this listing just because I simply don't trust that this is the actual product that's going to arrive in the mail when I order it. So move forward. Now, these are some examples of things that we've done here at Spreetail, but now I can see some images that would go on a trimmer listing here on the left that clearly show, one, an investment by the brand to show how this product is being used. So as a customer looks at this listing, not only does trust go up, but also they can see it in their hands. They see that, hey, I've got some backyard issues here. Maybe I just bought my new home and I need to get some things cleaned up, and I've got some similar vines. And this trimmer is actually built for that exact thing, to get through these thicker weeds. So they can actually see the use of this product that the brand is wanting to portray. Another great thing that we've done here and that I think is really impactful is infographics. So we know that customers, right, bullets, descriptions, they get long, they get wordy. Customers don't spend a lot of time on detail pages. They want to know about the product quickly. They're probably not going to read a 7-paragraph essay about why you should buy this product. But what they will do is scroll through this image carousel and quickly see through the images what is important about this DeWalt propane heater. Well, right away we can see off the top, it's versatile. It can be picked up. It can be moved. It's propane powered, but it's also easy maintenance and battery powered as well. So callouts, key product callouts and images draw the customer's eyes to those key things that you're trying to differentiate your product on and convert the customer to putting it in their cart and buying that product. So these are huge, especially on mobile, as we know that most customers just aren't going to spend the time reading long paragraphs of content, but will scroll through images to see key product features. All right. And then the last thing, so something that's really important here is to invest in our brands at Spreetail. So this is an example of some A+ content that we've created on the right-hand side. Doing this through an agency can be slow, can be time-consuming, can cost a lot of money. And quite frankly, it does have this is an investment into your brand that does cost. But at Spreetail, we want to invest in our brands, grow our SKUs together. So it's something that we actually build for our brands for free to ensure that they're driving more traffic and increasing conversion across their listings. So I will follow up with any questions in the chat as always. And then last question here, what is your biggest roadblock for achieving A+ content across your listings? So we will get an answer hopefully there and give away that sweet CrossNet volleyball game. But I will answer and follow up on some of your awesome chats and the questions in the chat. So thank you so much for your engagement, and I will pass it off now. I believe to Keith.
I'll jump in here. How are you? Nicely done. Did you see the couple questions that just came in there, Lance?
Yes, I am going to. I will respond to all of those.
You can put those in the chat. Yep, sounds good. We'll keep rolling. All right, thank you much. And with that, we'll hand it over to Keely.
Awesome. Thanks, Lance. Really great transition as you think of kind of the life cycle of a brand. Specifically, I come from the Amazon Marketplace side of the house. So a lot of knowledge on as far as how do you build a strong foundation and then figure out the tools to help you level up from there. As we go to the next slide, I really want to dive in and talk promotional strategy. We'll talk kind of what that looks like, what timelines look like, what's really key points in time to focus on brands and the tools and home improvement space. And as you have comments and questions in the chat, the next prize up for grabs is a Hydroforce Rapid Rider. It's a float, so anybody that enjoys time on the water, whether it be the lake or the river, there we go. Cool. So I always like to start with really what does the customer experience look like in store? That's what customers are used to. And so online, a lot of time what we're doing when we're building a listing on Amazon and choosing the correct strategy, we're trying to duplicate a lot of what that customer experience is in store online. So using the example of a saw, I did a little Google search to see how many saws I had available here at my local Home Depot. There's 21 options for me. And on those 21 options, as I walk into the store, there's really 3 things that I'm looking at to stand out. Number 1, where is it placed on the shelf? So as you shop things that are eye level, real high value or likelihood that you're going to convert on that product because it's super easy to see versus something on the bottom of the shelf. Secondarily, what are they doing to really make their product stand out? So a lot of times you'll see on packaging those key callouts or those key details that show you what's different about their product from their competitor. That's what you see on the packaging in store, but there's a way to do that online that I'll go into here in a minute. And then the last piece where I really want to go into the details is pricing and badging oriented. So pricing and badging is where we'll focus on in this section and show you how to use that to your advantage. So with the idea of shopping in store, like I said, there's 21 saw options at my local Home Depot. When you're searching on Amazon, there's over 200,000 hits for the results on the word saw, meaning you're up against a lot of competition. So enabling yourself to stand out amongst that crowd is really crucial. And we'll use kind of those 3 in-store general tendencies as a way to kind of discover what that looks like online. So when we're talking about our shelf, how do we shelf our items or how do we put our items in the right place to create traffic? Ultimately, you're doing that in 3 key ways. Number 1, advertising. No matter how high up you are in BSR, advertising is a really necessary part of your strategy because it keeps you in front of the customer. And like was called out in the chat, I think, by James, exactly what you said. Instead of using pulling items apart from variations to make sure you show up in search a lot, typically advertising is your best way to make sure you're showing up several times in those search result pages. Secondarily, SEO, that hits direct on what Lance was calling out. So wanting to make sure we're using keywords that the customer is actually searching for and words that they're accustomed to or potentially looking for, like you would see on the guide signs in a store. And then as you do that over time, BSR, or your bestseller rank, which is where you organically are going to show up in search, is what's going to generate that traffic and help you get that traction over time. Secondarily, when we're thinking about how do we show features on our products, Lance hit it right on the head. You're using things like images, A+ content, and brand story, ultimately to generate clicks or to get customers to your listing. Once customers are on your listing, this is the most crucial part. Rather than just having the customer add the product to their cart, we don't want them to go to checkout and say, I don't need this. We really want to use something that will help us put things a step above the competitors and make sure they actually check out with our product. So in today's presentation, we'll go through what that looks like on price changes and promotions in particular. So when I think about Amazon, really there's 5 key deal types that exist. We've got these ranked from kind of most high impact to the least high impact. All of them have a time and a place where they really can thrive, but top deals, lightning deals, and best deals are really going to be your best friends. There's not a cost to participate per se. However, the price or the percentage you're providing the customer as a discount is really what your investment looks like. You plan differently based on kind of what those output metrics look like. So a top deal, you would plan somewhere to that 45 to 60 day in advance, where a lightning deal or best deal is a little bit of a quicker lever to pull. And you can see the planning that goes into it and the amount of discount that you're giving ultimately has a pretty large boom that follows you. So expected GMV impact is kind of how we're telling you what we would expect to happen while that promotion is actually running. At 20% off, you're usually looking somewhere in this 300 to 400% range. 15% off, that drops off just about a third. And then so on from there, it really starts dropping off a bit more dramatically. But the part that makes me really excited and where we're really watching our brands is what we would call that halo impact, meaning once the promotion has ended, the 2 weeks following, what happens to your sale? So when you run a top deal or you run a lightning deal or you run a best deal, yes, that impact during the event is nice, but knowing that you're going to have 25% growth after the fact is really what helps you long-term. I think taking this all the way back kind of to the beginning and what this actually looks like for a brand, I wanted to use one of our brands as an example here of just truly what a successful promotion looks like. So this is our ChargePoint EV charger. Recently, they've launched a Tesla compatible version. When we were running the event, we were coming out at about 380% growth. Conversion rates were up just under 4%. Sessions grew double. But the really big teller here is that BSR rank, because that's what's going to follow that item or that brand over time. Really great results during the promotion, but want to highlight what happened afterwards. Our daily GMV maintained at about 200% growth the 2 weeks following that promotion. Conversion remained relatively high. We had about 80% growth in sessions. But again, most importantly, that BSR, we jumped 200 places organically that now our advertising is becoming more efficient. We're able to use those dollars and create a stronger ROI due to that short-term action of running a promotion for just a single day. When we think about what an e-commerce promotional calendar looks like in tools and home improvement, realistically in e-commerce, there's probably 150-ish events that happen on a given marketplace in a year. But I really wanted to highlight what kind of the 4 quarters look like and what events are really oriented towards tools and home improvement, and specifically call out Q2. When you think about running a promotion, there's kind of 2 key periods you want to watch out for. Number 1, right before you go into season, because that means your BSR has jumped and you're at a really high point for your brand or a peak right as customers are starting to shop. As they start shopping, that will help your BSR maintain. And then secondarily, usually as you're ending the season and you're trying to assess where's my inventory at, am I ahead or behind of my competitors? It's a really great way of making sure you give yourself a little bit of bump right before that timing comes to the end. We use Q2 as kind of our bread and butter for tools and home improvement because you've got 3 really big events that are oriented towards mini home improvement products, things like Father's Day, the spring home reset, or tax return season for some of those higher dollar value items. So with that, I want to leave you guys with a question to hopefully help somebody win that raft. So during which seasonal period does your brand prioritize making the most substantial improvements to your BSR? Right now, without promotions or changing your strategy, what time of the year is most important for you? And with that, I will pass it on, I believe, to Nelson.
Thanks, Keely. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Nelson Misek. I'm part of our business development team. So I have the unique opportunity to speaking with a lot of different brands out there, some that end up coming and working with Spreetail, some that do not, but have the opportunity to hear about the challenges that they face every day and the things that they're doing to help grow their brand. Just so you know, the next giveaway is the Crown Shades Canopy, another great product for this time of year. So I will be asking a question towards the end of this section. So make sure you put those answers in the chat for a chance to win. Today, we're going to be talking about brand control. And this is really a piece that can go sideways with your e-commerce business. Owen talked about the growing generalist channels like Amazon and Walmart in the tools and home improvement space. Lance talked about content optimization. I've been seeing in the chat the amount of resources and time it takes to build out really good content. And then, Keely talking about the promotional strategies and the efforts there to really grow your brand. All really important things. But if this brand control piece isn't cleaned up and taken care of, things can go sideways really quickly, and all of that effort can go to the wayside. So we believe here at Spreetail that brands that succeed both online and in brick and mortar channels are those that understand that the value of their brand depends on the investments they make in controlling product distribution today. And so things need to be done today to control your brand in the future. There's a lot of different harmful effects that happen with a lack of brand control, from increased negative reviews to inventory management channels, dealing with multiple reseller relationships. But the three biggest ones that I want to touch on today are eroded advertised prices, inconsistent delivery times, and impeded advertising capabilities. Before I get into that, I do want to ask a question, and this is not for the giveaway, but I would like you to put your answers in the chat and encourage some participation here. But I'm curious if you have a membership to either Amazon Prime, Walmart Plus, or Target Red Card. And if you do, I want you to drop your reason in the chat. What is the reason that you pay for that membership? While you're doing that, here's some statistics on the amount of online shoppers with those memberships. You can see 55% of online shoppers have an active Prime membership, 28% have Prime and Walmart. 76% of US online shoppers are members of one of those three. Now you may be asking, what does this have to do with brand control? Well, I want to highlight the reason why people are paying for these memberships and what they're looking to get out of it. I want to look in the chat real quick. Bill says, the Amazon Prime pays for itself annually. I'm guessing you're talking about free shipping there. The selection, shipping, and customer service from Prime, all of the above. Amazon for the quick ship, streaming, Target for the discount. Yep. So here's some of the reasons on this slide of what are some of the biggest factors customers care about when shopping for a brand or on a retailer's website. And you'll see delivery speed and delivery cost rank at the top. But a lot of these things, return policy, are offered in these different memberships. And so this is what's really driving a lot of people to go shop on these sites, right? This is why people are going to Amazon now more so than ever to buy a tool or a home improvement type item instead of going to a specific channel like a Home Depot or Lowe's or directly to the retailer's D2C site. So now that we understand, why people are going to these sites, I want to get into the harmful effects of a lack of brand control. You'll see here, this is some Keepa data that we can see. And if you have a Keepa account, you have access to this information. But this is a leading brand in the home improvement category. This is one of their SKUs. And you'll see the large number of resellers that have won the buy box in the last year. So in the last 365 days, there have been 48 different sellers that have won the buy box. And if you look closely, You'll see a lot of them, the third one down the list has a lower average price than Amazon on the top of the list. The fifth one down has a lower price. A lot of these sellers are just competing on price and eroding the price, interfering with that buy box. And you may say, well, I've already sold it to a distributor. What do I care what people do with it after that, right? Why do I care if they discount it? I've already made the sale. It's no big deal. But what I want to get into is the disruption that happens when you have rogue sellers or unauthorized sellers causing that disruption. Let's look at the Amazon piece and talk a lot about the advertising. Keely touched on the different strategies that you can have to drive traffic and conversion to your listings. Well, here's an example of what happens on Amazon. On the far left, you've got seller number one retailing the item at $50, and they say, we're advertising, selling it at $50. We want to try to grow the business here. But you've got seller number two that steps in and says, hey, we want to steal some market share. We're going to advertise a little bit, but we need to win the buy box. And so we're going to sell it at $48 and win the buy box. Well, you got seller number three that then comes in, says, we don't believe in advertising, but we want to steal some market share. We got some product on hand. We need to move it. We're going to change the price to $47.99 and win the buy box. And then you have the seller number four that comes in, says, we don't believe in advertising. We don't have margin to advertise, but we need to move some products. So we're going to sell it at $47. And now all of a sudden, that $50 item is down at $47. You may say, hey, no big deal. It's still getting sold. I've already made the sale. But meanwhile, the competition is coming in at $50, putting a lot of energy, effort, resources at advertising, and they're driving market share by advertising, getting people to their listing and making the sale at $50. And we've been able to see that over time. As we know, more than 50% of traffic is driven to a listing because of advertising. And so that disruption that happens with these multiple sellers coming in with different strategies, undercutting each other, is actually just causing noise. They're competing against each other for the same sale. Meanwhile, you've got competition that's just taking market share. Right. So it's that erosion of price that really disrupts all of that. I wanted to get into another real example. I'm going to be moving to a new house here in about a month. One of the things I want to put in my garage is a new table saw. And so I've been looking at table saws online. You'll see here when I search table saw on Amazon, and if you remember Keely sharing about the large number of results when you search just saw, same thing when you search table saw, there's a lot of different people out there competing in this space. But when I searched table saw, I highlighted this skill table saw in the bottom right-hand corner. It shows up in the second row. So it's got great organic search results showing up in the top search. But if I have subscribed to the Prime membership and I'm looking for items that are just Prime, right? I've paid that monthly fee or that annual fee. I want it to arrive to my house before this weekend. I'm going to search for just Prime products. If I do that, I can no longer see that saw. It's no longer in the top two rows. It's no longer available for me to see. If you actually went into that listing and started looking at the available options of sellers, you will see that Amazon actually has that item. They actually have it as Prime, but it was undercut by another seller that dropped it $5 and won the buy box. And what that did is then it no longer showed up on search results when I was searching for Prime products, right? So I could no longer find it. It also lost the ability for a customer to see that the coupon that Amazon was offering was there. So they could have got it for $5.99, but because they couldn't find it, because somebody undercut that listing, because somebody didn't have it as Prime, potential customer missed out on taking advantage of that coupon. So somewhere there's a brand that's working directly with Amazon or a strategic partner. They're saying, hey, we're going to build really good content. We're going to run some advertising. We're going to offer our customers coupons because we want to drive sales. And then you have an unauthorized seller or another seller causing disruption and lowering the price and possibly driving people to competitor listings. And so you'll see there on the right-hand side, that basically goes back to that example that we showed of, hey, Amazon's advertising, they've got it as Prime. You got another seller that doesn't believe in advertising, and then you have the one that actually wins the buy box that says we don't have margin to advertise, so they're just going to cut at $5 and cause disruption. So 10 years ago, I think the normal game would be to get your product in as many places as possible through as many channels as possible, through as many retailers as possible, with different inventory pools. That has changed drastically over the last 10 years. And today we would recommend brands finding a strategic partner, limiting the amount of resellers that they have out there to eliminate the noise and the disruption that's happening. So they can manage one inventory pool, they can manage one seller relationship, but still have access to multiple different channels. So the power of brand control. What we've seen last year, brands that were working with us and getting into brand control, is there was a decrease in sales through unauthorized sellers, right? And that's a hard thing for brands to swallow when they determine they're going to cut somebody off and say, hey, we're not going to sell product to these people anymore, right? There's almost a 40% decrease in unauthorized volume. But what that did is allow the authorized volume to grow substantially. You'll see over 240% growth in those SKUs, with 97% sold at or above MSRP. And so it's really about cutting out the bad players, the cancerous piece of the business, and allowing room for the healthy part to grow. And that's the power of brand control. The last piece I want to add to this is an example here. Again, we'll talk about ChargePoint and what happened when the brand launched an exclusive SKU. They used to have a lot of issues with buy box control. They had inconsistencies with retail. They could not run advertising because there was so much disruption with the buy box. When they launched this exclusive product and they ran their first full advertising campaign, it drove the sales rank down to 197 in the automotive category, and maintaining the first position in that subcategory. And that's really the power that we see behind the brand control. We as Spreetail, we don't specialize in removing unauthorized sellers or writing reseller policies or removing unauthentic products, but we do partner with a third-party law firm called Voorhees, that they have special legal capabilities, and they're the biggest e-control law firm in the country. And so that's how we help brands do it. But we would encourage you to take a look at your distribution, understand who's getting your product, and how it's getting out there, and then how your brand is represented in the space. So the question is, and this is your chance to win the Crown Shade Canopy, rate your brand control. 1, having 0 confidence, and a 5, you are extremely confident in your brand control.
Okay, I'll take it away. My name is Tina Stambolis, and I'm the director of DSV channels here at Spreetail Dropship Channels. So what we're giving away in this portion is a Samsonite 3-piece carry-on set. So pay attention, get involved, and I'll have a question there at the end. So why am I talking about Home Depot and Lowe's today? I started with Spreetail 5 years ago and launched onto these channels. So I've been there from setting up your items on the channel to where we are today, 5 years later, as a really trusted partner to these channels. And I'll talk about what I've learned along the way and things that I find to be trade secrets. So I know we just mentioned that Amazon and other e-commerce sites are starting to grow more in this space of tools and home improvement, which is great. But I do want to reiterate that Home Depot and Lowe's will always matter in this space. Biggest reason being the omni experience that they offer. So the in-store and online. We do see that a lot of what the customer's behavior is in-store ties to what they do online. And crazy enough, 55% of purchases online at Home Depot are requested to be pick up in store, 60% of orders at Lowe's. So despite the ease of ordering online and shipping to your home, customers want to go in store. Sometimes they value having that expertise of an in-store employee, which kind of leads me to my next slide here around brand equity. So something that's really important about both the Home Depot and Lowe's is the brand equity that comes with those retailers. We've seen a lot of smaller brands, lesser known brands, really excel on these channels and sometimes outperform their launch on Home Depot and Lowe's because of the notoriety that comes with that retailer's presence in the space. Going with that, The other reason why this is important to customers shopping these channels is because it's a curated selection. So when you go to a Home Depot or a Lowe's.com, you're going to see a smaller selection of items. This is because the merchant at these channels is doing the pre-work for their customers. So what they end up providing you online is what they would recommend to a customer to purchase. So they're definitely picky in what they're looking for, but they want to make sure that when a customer comes to Home Depot or Lowe's, that they're providing them with a product that is going to really do well for the customer. And if your item is not performing, it will be taken offline. Lowe's might not always let you know about that, so keep an eye on it. Home Depot will often let you know if your item is at risk and give you some time to improve sales. But they just don't want items online that are going to, one, bog down the number of items available to the customer or anything that maybe isn't seeming to fit with what the customer is looking for. And getting through to these channels can be really difficult. So like I mentioned, the omnipresence, a lot of merchants that you work with are working both in store and online. So think about one merchant, it's probably like a team of 2 or 3 people working across thousands of vendors and getting a lot of requests to be on these channels because of the clout that comes with a Home Depot and a Lowe's. One thing that has been really seen as valuable to these channels from our perspective is that we have multiple, we're the source for multiple brands, but we come through as just one person. So I know the channels really value that, having one direct point of contact for 250 brands versus 250 brands to talk to. And it's also helped us in moving forward with these channels as well. So in that process of getting items online, no margin, no deals. So they really stick to that brick and mortar perspective of the category manager is really held to a margin requirement. Despite being dropship, which is how we operate with these channels, and the risk being very low for them, they still want to hit the margin that their portfolio requires. We see them at Home Depot specifically, they're definitely more willing to partner with us and work with the range. Lowe's is a little bit more strict on this, so you'll have to watch out for that. But they're pretty cutthroat about that, and you will see declines as a result. Tied to this is the cost changes. So if you're operating on e-commerce channels like an Amazon, your cost is probably changing to the customer. The retail is changing on a really frequent basis. That's not the case here on these dropship channels. So if you want to update your cost to Home Depot or Lowe's, technically right now their processes can take up to 90 days. We actually, based just with our partnership that we've had with Home Depot, we launched a pilot program with them. I think it's been 2 years ago now, for select categories. At this point, it's most of our categories where we're actually able to update our cost and retails with the channel on a weekly basis, 3 times a week, so that we're in a better place to help them compete against Amazon and other e-commerce channels that operate in more of a marketplace format. On the next slide, I kind of just will show, as a result of that program, we've really seen an increase in sales. So that is something that Home Depot has seen now and is really excited about. While it is currently just a pilot program that is specific to Spreetail, I know that they're looking down the line to find ways to be able to adapt their systems to be more aggressive, or not more aggressive, but better at handling cost changes and updating their retails. You will see that they generally try to match Amazon, both Lowe's and Home Depot. But what we typically see is that on average, they're slightly higher, about 3%, which honestly, we don't see a difference too much in sales often because of the brand equity that comes with these channels. The customer loyalty to these channels, they're going to continue to shop this site because of the loyalty that they have to them. But in general, I do see a lot of progress coming here from Home Depot. Lowe's is still kind of behind in this area of competitive retails and competitive costing, but Home Depot, I see it here in the near future. Promotions operate a little differently on these channels. One, if you're working dropship, you have probably a smaller margin to work with to offer promotions. But the second is that they're probably going to push you on special buy of the day and deal of the day, both one-day promotions that are supposed to move a ton of inventory, and they do have the added extra value of an email to your customers. We have not seen a huge lift from these programs. Where we do see more of a lift is on their holiday events. So currently, if you go to either Home Depot or Lowe's, they're really playing into spring. We have Spring Black Friday and Spring Fest. These are long promotions. So unlike an Amazon Prime Day where it's a 2-day or 3-day event, these are for a full month. Generally what we're seeing is that we do see a lift in sales across the month. So while it might not be as exciting as a 1 or 2 day promotional lift, we do see quite a return on those long holiday events. We also see more of a halo effect because they're advertising across categories. So even if you don't have a promotion active, we still see a lot of return on our items that are not in the promotions. And then one area of promotion that we've actually seen success on is called MAP holidays. So if you're a product that has MAP and maybe doesn't have the room to discount as much, having a slight MAP holiday, so a couple days where you're allowing the retailer to break MAP, that has seen a huge lift. We've seen about 20% lift on sales on both of these channels. And the nice thing is that they will do an in-cart pricing to ensure that you don't have suppression on other channels. I know Lance talked a lot about content and whatnot earlier. Merchandising really matters on these sites. And the reason for that is because the way that the customer within this tool and home improvements space shops is actually different than in other areas of just e-commerce. So one, the people that are shopping Home Depot and Lowe's are very much doing their pre-work. So they're coming to the site looking to plan out how they're going to go through a project. They're not just browsing necessarily all the time. So a lot of what the work that you're doing in the pre-work of setting up your items, while it can be a pain to build items on both Home Depot and Lowe's because of all the attributes that are required, it does pay off because the way that the customer is shopping this site is from just a search bar and more from the guidance of Home Depot and Lowe's is the categorization and the way that they've set up their site. Customers are actually utilizing that. You'll also note that product tiles and the placement on site, all of that is really driven by sales as well as traffic to your listings. You can influence placement through sponsored ads. That is temporary. You can also work with your merchant to help guide what you think should happen within your category. I would say the merchant isn't fully responsible for the category or subcategory page. That's actually managed by both the merchant and then a content ops team. On Home Depot and Lowe's, honestly, I would say I'm very impressed with the amount of feedback and thoughts that are taken into consideration and actually made on site. They're very open to that, specifically if you're, with Spreetail, we obviously have a lot of products within each of these categories, but if you're a brand that is trusted and you have some feedback on how things are looking on other channels that might help them, they're willing to take that as well. Big call out on Home Depot. Sorry, go back to one slide. One thing to really note there is that it is important to have salient bullets. This is something that I've called out on the slide here. You can see those three top bullets at the start of the listing. These are really going to drive your search. They're included now in enrichment if you're utilizing Home Depot's new platform, but if you're still on the old platform, it's not. So it's an additional step, but it's really crucial. And I do see a really return in search and performance on listings that have that. And then they are both set up with Bazaar Voice. So if you do work with Bazaar Voice for your reviews and Q&A, both channels have that and can syndicate easily. Advertising on both of these channels is relatively new. It launched when we launched on these channels. We've been testing it though, and it's actually really impressive. The return that we've seen is something that I would recommend you dabbling in as well. System capabilities. So if you worked with these channels, you know that in a lot of ways they're a bit archaic. Other e-commerce channels, they only offer an EDI connection, meaning that they only allow you to send your inventory and do not allow you to send their content. So content building, I mentioned a little bit earlier, is through their portals and has a lot of attribution required. Probably takes about 10 minutes to build a SKU. We've actually invested in a full team to help us build out items because of the time that it takes. But again, it is important and you do have to follow the protocol to get your item in a good place. And low flexibility. I mentioned it earlier in the pilot program that we have with Home Depot. was a huge win for us and definitely helped us grow our business. And I do see Home Depot making a lot of efforts internally to automate their systems and improve within the industry. Lowe's is still a little bit behind there. But I think there's a lot of exciting stuff coming from Home Depot specifically around pricing and promotions. But we still have a ways to go on Lowe's. Second to last thing I have to talk about is around the ship time promises. So you might see on both of these channels, there is some area on the top portion where you can click to see items that ship faster. Unfortunately, if you're not in that channel's facilities, you will not be included in that portion. They are currently working on this. This has been a focus for both channels, I would say, for the last 2 years. I think that they're getting closer to improving this for Home Depot right now and on Lowe's as well. Lowe's, your item will show relatively accurate ship time if you're not in the FCs and you're shipping direct from your FCs. Home Depot will definitely add a buffer. So ensure that you have taken your vendor turn time to as low as it can go. But also what we've been able to do, and I think it's possible for most vendors, if your metrics are showing that you're capable of a faster ship time, you're able to work with their automation team and have them override what's showing up on site because they know it and they want their items to look like they're shipping faster or look to be accurate, obviously. So if you're actually delivering that, they will override your metric, your ship time on site. And then not all items ship free on Home Depot, so make sure that you have that listed in your listing. It should automatically show that, but it does drive a bit more. The biggest area, so right now on Home Depot and Lowe's, so Orange Apron Media is the retail media. It used to be called retail media, but it's the advertising team that supports Home Depot. That is actually a part of Home Depot, which is kind of confusing, but that's their in-house advertising firm. That's what I was talking about when I was referencing the effective advertising. And then at Lowe's, it's called Lowe's One Roof Network. It's also their in-house advertising team. Those are most effective. There's one-offs with like a TikTok item that took off on Home Depot and whatnot, but their in-house advertising is what I'm seeing is most effective. And then as far as, this is just a recap of our top 10 trade secrets, but I have a question from Bill here. Percentage of their e-com sales. So they're not really upfront about what percent is coming from that. In 2022, it was around 15% for Home Depot of their sales were coming from online, but that was up from 2019 when it was just 10%. They did not release it in 2023 yet, but it's still a much smaller portion of their business, but it's growing. And just in talks with merchants there, I know it's a focus for them. It's a way for them to grow their categories, and they're aware of that. And they also are aware, specifically at Home Depot, that they have a lot of work to do to be able to compete against in the Amazon, and they're actually taking those steps. Lowe's is a little bit behind it, again, I would say, as far as taking the steps to compete with the big guys within e-commerce. And then our question here is, what's the biggest challenge that your business is currently facing with a Home Depot or Lowe's?
Thank you, Tina. Hey, it looks like there was one other question. You hit on it a bit. Maybe, Tina, you can come back and chat with us for a second, which is from Bruce. Most effective levers to drive traffic on Home Depot and Lowe's, Orange Apron, Meta, Google, TikTok, etc. Again, you kind of hit on a few of those things, but maybe add a little more color.
Yeah, again, I would reiterate that utilizing their in-house advertising is the most effective we've seen. It's also what on-site and off-site advertising is offered through both of their network or through both of their media organizations, but we've seen the best return on that. I would say a lot of what we've done with influencer marketing hasn't really paid off a ton on those channels. There's like the one-off item, like the Christmas tree that took off on Home Depot last year from a TikTok video, but we really don't see it as much yet.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, everyone. Going to take us to our last section, prize number 6. You and only you can win this outdoor wood burning 360-degree chimney fire pit. So thank you for engaging. Excited to talk through this one with Endless Summer. All right, let's close up to a few things. I see more questions in the chat there, and maybe we'll let Tina dive in, or I can hit on those later. But first of all, here you can show, and we hit on this earlier on when we opened up, which was talking about that our generalist channels in e-commerce are taking more share from the more traditional focused channels, particularly Home Depot and Lowe's. And you can see the data here. This is from January of 2020 into August of 2022 there on the horizontal axis. You can see Amazon as the darker color line is actually at its highest share right now. Or I should say this is through August 22, we're at the end of the fall. And so it's taking share there. Also interesting, Home Depot has been the best. Thank you. Home Depot has been the best channel. But interesting to call out that if you look at the data and you see the peaks and valleys, look at where Home Depot is falling. It's in December. And look at where Amazon, Walmart, and Target are rising also in December of every year, and Lowe's is falling. So it's probably a good reminder to us that when we enter in these super generalist promotional periods, particularly holidays, Black Friday, we need to really be aggressive on the generalist channels because that's where customers are flocking more so. But then during the rest of the season, we can push harder on our category-specific channels because that's where customers are probably going on a more ongoing basis. So just keep in mind that during those heavy promotional holiday periods, the generalist channels can be a bit of a land grab. And so it's a good opportunity to get your brand out there and get more folks exposed. And I think a lot of us, we're sitting there looking at our sales on Target or Walmart or Amazon and thinking about, goodness, am I making any money, right, at these promotions? And we should always be asking these questions, but we should also be asking how many new to the brand customers am I bringing into the portfolio and expanding? And if they buy from me here once, maybe next time they'll go to my site, maybe next time they'll go to a different channel. And so that expands my kind of lifetime value of my brand. And so good question here. Is this referring to unit volume? This is actually an estimated of GMV share there, Michael, or gross merchandise value, or an estimate for revenue. And so that's what the chart there is showing. And then we can see that more than a third of total home improvement sales are coming in online, and generalist retailers are continuing to take share. So Amazon at 25%, Home Depot still leads the way, but only barely. And as much as I think the Home Depot team there in Smyrna might be sad to hear it, Amazon's continuing to take share. And so I think we all want a balanced portfolio broadly, but as much as Home Depot is investing, Amazon continues to march forward in this category. And so it's just a good thing to kind of keep us all open-minded about it. And it's just truly impressive for a company to be as big as they already are overall and still taking share, still growing. And then in tools and home improvement, it really is needed now. I could, probably give you a lot of dollars for the amount of time someone has asked me, oh, and does it really matter if this tool or this widget or this item gets to the customer today or tomorrow? And I would say, the customers overwhelmingly keep telling us this. And on top of that, Amazon, Walmart, and the other channels also continue to overplay it in their algorithms that even if the customers weren't as interested, I'm still going to win share because I'm going to beat out everybody else in search, positioning, conversion based upon where the algorithm or the site gives me priority. And so speed is incredibly important. And that's been our focus at Spreetail for years, and really something we focus on being best in class on. And we see that the customers really care about that. Finally, before we kind of close this out with a question for everybody, overall, free and slow shipping loses sales, right? So customers abandon cart. Almost a third of customers abandon cart because shipping is not fast. Customers are looking for same day and in store, and so those are really powerful. And customers will also kind of back out and get away from sites that have slow shipping experiences. And so all these things are hugely critical. Okay, question that I'd like everyone to put in the chat here. What is something you learned today that you'd want to start implementing in your online strategy? And that's our goal at Spreetail, is that we can be your e-commerce growth coach, whether you work with us in a big way or partial, or we're able to be an assisting partner to you. Our goal is and our mission is to drive market share and to reduce operational cost for brands. And so if we're not simultaneously helping you to increase your size and your market share and reduce your cost, then we're failing. We can't just do one of those things. We have to do both for you. That's our value. So we'd love to hear what people are thinking about. Size of the upside. Yeah, I agree on that, Bill. It's still just a huge market with such still limited online penetration. Huge growth is still here. We kind of made it through the pandemic, big peak, and then normalization, I would say, post-pandemic. And now we're seeing pretty consistent growth across the board, almost as if the pandemic years had never happened there. Working in-house, Orange Apron, Amazon rising up. Yeah, thank you, Michael. We're excited to tell you more about our capabilities. Rethinking your promotional strategy. Yeah, even for me, going through all the data and I think talking to our teams, it shocked me to see how much share Amazon and Target and Walmart are taking from Home Depot and Lowe's during that big Q4 period. And I just wonder, are we thinking about that properly, right? Because I almost would want to say, okay, I'm going to throw more dollars at Amazon during that particular time period, but then come March, April, May, I'm going to throw more dollars at Home Depot and Lowe's. It's a good thought. All right. Thank you, everybody. That lights us up. Appreciate your time. We appreciate you. And we will see you next time.